Hey everyone, and you're listening to Ankur Warikoo on Woice with Warikoo. On this podcast, I talk to you about entrepreneurship, how to grow in life, manage personal finances, handle failures, and a lot more things that just come to my mind. The episode begins. Today, I want to talk about consistency. If I were to do an opinion poll and ask all the successful people in the world, what's one thing that you believe is essentially important to be successful, I'm pretty certain consistency will be, if not the top, then amongst the top things that people talk about. And we always hear it, right? We always hear how consistency is important, how showing up every day to what you're doing, showing up every day, irrespective of your circumstances, being disciplined about that, will eventually just compound and will make the world see you for who you are. But here's a question that very few people ask. And I ask myself, and I think I have an answer, which is, what is a necessary input to being consistent? Everyone knows that one has to be consistent. And everyone thinks that the mechanism to be consistent is to be disciplined. But I think discipline is very different from consistency. There are people who are disciplined and yet not consistent. They would be disciplined about how to go about doing things, but that doesn't mean that they do it every day. They do it with the frequency that is required, with the commitment that is required. I feel that consistency has a very different necessary input to it. And in my introspection, I realized that the biggest thing that enables consistency is authenticity. Let me tell you what I mean by that. Imagine that every single day you have to show up and pretend to be someone else. Imagine that every day when you show up at work, you are this fun, bubbly girl, full of life, and suddenly office mandates that you become serious, that you become uptight, that you become submissive, that you become all hierarchical and go sir and ma'am and respect people not for what they've done, but just because of the number of years of experience that they have behind them. Can you ever be consistent in that environment? And the answer is conclusively no. Because every single day, you're being asked to become someone else. Every single day, you've been asked to put up a mask and to become someone else. And that will never, ever, ever result in consistency. It will always make you behave like someone else, and it will require intense energy for you to behave that person. So at the end of the day, when you've gone through that cycle, pretending to be someone else, posing as someone else, thinking and behaving like you are not yourself but someone else, you will be drained out of energy. You will be so drained out of energy because you are transferring your state from a natural state to an unnatural state. If your natural state is to be happy, to be respectful, to be jovial, to be cracking jokes, to be laughing out loud, and now the unnatural state that your environment mandates you to be is one that is just silent, that is submissive, that is tending to authority, or at least giving it the respect that I think it deserves, you are moving from a state that is not your natural self. And that means that over time you will spend an obnoxious and an inordinate amount of energy to just stay in this unnatural state. So the next day, when you get up, your natural state will be crying out loud saying, oh my God, I have to dispense so much of energy to become this person who I'm not. How the hell do you expect me to do this every single day? And that will be the start of the trap. The trap that the world lays out for us. The trap could be a salary. The trap could be social validation. The trap could be acknowledgement. The trap could be even appreciation. All of which goes not to who we truly are, but the unnatural individual that we become every morning. That is what is being acknowledged and appreciated. That individual is being applauded, not who you truly are. And that means it will never be consistent. The minute you go back to your natural state, you will never be this person who is being applauded. You forced yourself to become someone else. And now that someone else is in the eyes of the world. But it can never result in consistency because it takes so much of energy from you, because it forces you to become someone else that you're not. And the more and more you do that, and the more the world acknowledges you for that, the harder it will be for you to let go of this unnatural state. So if you're a creator and you want to be consistent, do something that comes naturally to you. If you are a student and you want to be consistent in your studies, study something that comes naturally to you. If you are a professional and you want to be consistent with the way you do things, then do things that come naturally to you. Whatever is your natural state of affairs, who you truly are, where you truly belong, that is what will automatically get you to consistency. Naval Ravikant, who's one of my favorite thinkers, spends a lot of time sharing his thoughts and his wisdom on Twitter. He says something beautiful, and I so agree with that. He says that your biggest differentiation in life will be if you're doing something that seems like sport or game to you, but seems like a task or an activity to someone else. Think about what he said. If you do something that feels like a sport or a game to you, but feels like a task and activity to someone else, you will be successful. And essentially what he's trying to say is, at the end of it, we all have to choose what we do in life on a daily basis that comes naturally to us. That we don't have to dispense a lot of energy to become that person. If I am creating these videos, this podcast, this newsletter, this entire orchestra of content, and I do it with the consistency that perhaps amazes you, it's only because it comes naturally to me. I love this. It's not that I have to drag myself out of the bed every morning for me to do this. I genuinely love doing this. And it took me a long while to get to this point, but I'm so glad that I did. At the age of 40, I now recognize that what I had been doing all these years in some shape and form was actually the natural thing that I should have always been doing. And maybe it would not have come any earlier and I needed to go through that experience. But I'd like to believe that if you are young, if you're in your 20s, if you're in your late teens, if you're in your 30s, you can go through this journey of discovery where you ask yourself, what are the things that I'm naturally aligned to do? Things where I don't have to even think twice about doing it. Things that just happen so magically that a lot of people ask me, how do you even do this? How do you even do this? Because if I do that thing which surprises people but comes naturally to me, I will never, ever need to be consistent. Consistency will be just a natural outcome of me waking up every day. If you like this podcast episode, then please remember to subscribe to the channel because every week you will be notified.